Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, I want to make this video in the highlights of the death of Tyree Nicole and the murder of him by the white supremacist system police. And unfortunately, the people to perpetrate the hate against Tyree were Black American, unfortunately, police officers. So today we're going to talk about self-hate, and I want to address related to Tyree and these incidents of police brutality and murdering in the open of Black people. I want to talk about solutions, meaning preventions from these things happening. And as a Black American, or some would say foundational American or Black foundational American, whatever we want to call us, as African Americans or Black foundational Americans, which I like this term, we have a long history of being oppressed. And unfortunately, we have a history where Black men and Black women participate with white supremacy in the extermination of Black people in the US and unfortunately outside the US also. And I think one of the biggest criminals of modern day history of the Coon class who work with white supremacy to disadvantage Black people or foundational Black Americans, I think today the poster boy for this should be Obama. Former President Obama. Barack Obama Hussein. And the reason why I say he should be the poster boy of the modern day coon or the modern day Black person who work with white supremacy to hurt Black people is Obama, former President Obama. Because before he left office, he signed a executive order called the Blue Shield to give police more power. I say it again. Former President Obama signed an executive order before he left office to give police more power, more immunity to kill Black people. The executive order was called the Blue Shield. And despite Black people being killed by whites during his presidency, and that includes police killing Black people, murdering Black people, caught on camera, Obama gave the police more power. He is the poster boy of the modern day coon. He is the poster boy. And he opened up from a government level at the highest, being in the place of the highest position of government, and him being Black, ignoring Black people issues, and not just ignoring them or addressing them, making it worse, giving those who are perpetrating crimes against Black people, which are the police, Obama gave them more power by signing that executive order called the Blue Shield, I believe is the title. So that is the poster boy of coon and self-hate amongst Blacks, and those Blacks who participate in the government, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's DAs, like Kamal Haris, She also is going to take that position also. She's also in this predicament. Her as the DA in LA, who incarcerated black men at a high rate and did not want to release them, even the ones who were innocent. So already understand, from the government point of view, black people or participate in the government. They take on the same mask, the same hood, the same idolatry against black people. They participate in it because they think it's going to give them or secure them a better job, a better salary, a better outcome with whites. So the poster boy for being a modern day coon is Obama, from signing that executive order. And while he was in office, he didn't pass any bills, anything to assist black Americans who build this country in slavery, free labor. White man is wealthy in America due to African American free slave labor. Kamala Harris, she's the poster girl. Also, for the position she took as a DA, incarcerating black men and not even want to let out black innocent men. These are the modern day signs of coons, those who are black face but white in heart or white in their thinking and actions. They participate in white supremacy. And when they have the position of power to make changes, to better the situation for black people in America, they don't take it. So those police officers, though black KKK, those coons in the police uniform who killed Tyree, they're no different from Obama. And they're no different from Kamala Harris. They're no different. They're no difference. Kamala Harris, how many black men in LA she incarcerated? Actually, she's worse than the police who killed Tyree. She's worse than the black police who killed Tyree. The police enforces the white supremacist laws, and the DA now just don't enforce them, but they make sure the laws keep on going and keep on working against black people. So she's actually worse than the police who killed Tyree. The higher they are in position in government and they don't make any change that benefit black people, the worse they are. The bigger enemy to black folks they are. So now I want to talk about something. African American Muslims. Coming to a solution, coming to a resolution, coming to a understanding, or coming into the proper understanding, coming into a solution that our people are in a dying need of, whether they're African American Muslim or not. Black people are in a dying situation, or in a dire situation in America. And I find that a lot of the African American Muslims, we sitting on the sidelines. We sit on the sidelines thinking that Islam excuses us for participating and rectifying the issues that black Americans are going through. Last time I looked at it, Black people are also being, Black African American Muslims are also incarcerated. Black African American Muslim also suffer from gentrification. Black African American Muslim also suffer from white supremacy. And some Black African American Muslims are also participating in self-hate and crimes against Black folks. I said it. So when we look into the whole scenario, if you're African American Muslim and you're ignoring the social issues our people are facing, you're part of the problem also. You're no different from the other coons in our community. You're no different. You might turn around and say, I don't like to see Black people sell drugs to other Black people. But if you see another Black man being oppressed by the white supremacist system and you have nothing to do about it, not say, do about it, then you're also no different from the rest of those peoples who have misbehavior in the Black community that do not benefit our people. If you hiding your Islam inside your masjid, or if you're hiding your Islam inside your house, and if you're not participating in the solutions for your people, then you are also a sellout. You are also cooning. You're also suffering from self-hate. Because when we look into the book of Allah, every prophet said, Ya qawmi, O my people. Every prophet, every anbiya of Allah went to their people and called them to the truth. The truth is not restricted to Islamic monotheism. Calling to Tawheed and forbidding what is shirk or polytheism, but also forbidding munkar, all type of sins and transgression. That includes oppression. And what Black people face in America is oppression. Every prophet. For those African American Muslims say, well, we don't want to get involved. Every prophet went to their people and dealt with some issue their people have. The people of Lut, Sodom and Gomorrah. Lut called his people to what? Don't be gay. That's dealing with social issues. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam called his people to Tawheed. And he also rectified the people's situation. The things that they did in Jahiliyyah, like killing or burying their young female daughters. Islam came and correct that. So African American Muslims, we need to look into our deen, our religion, because it has real solutions. First, we need to talk about Islamic solutions for conflicts. But before we talk about Islamic solutions for conflicts, we need to talk about how to mend the self-hate amongst African Americans. And first, we must address the self-hate amongst the African American Muslims, that we are full of self-hate. We're running away from our Black identity. We want to be Arab. You're not Arab. You're not Arab. Even if you speak Arabic, you're not Arab. You're not Arab technically. You're not Arab. Matter of fact, if you feel that you're Arab because you speak Arabic, you're not Arab. Anta ta'arab. You're Arabized. Doesn't make your blood and your lineage Arab. So you're not Arab. You're Arabized. If you think you're Desi, you're not Desi. You're not from Pakistan. You're not from Maghreb. You're not Moroccans. You're Negroes. So if you're running into these other identities or other cultures to find our identity, you're black, you're a Negro. You're a Negro. And if you go to these countries and you feel comfortable when you visit them and you feel liked or you feel comfortable with people like you, that's because you got an American passport. You were the ticket to American dream. All self-hating Negroes from the African American Muslim community. So we have to first address the self-hate amongst the African American Muslims. We have it. And it's deeply rooted with many of us. You're not Arab, you're not Desi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said in Quran, He created what? The people into nations and tribe to arrafun. For you to know one another. It didn't say that you take on these other cultures' identity. Because in Islam, it is forbidden to change your father's name, your last name, meaning your father's name. It's forbidden. Your father, where he's from, his lineage is part of who you are, your identity. So I'm dealing with these self-hating Negroes in the African American Muslim community. So the first thing we need to do is deal with the self-hate amongst our community. Because us not able to work together in our community is from the symptoms of self-hate, which leads to defeat. Not able to come together, that is the defeat. That is the dilemma of self-hate. Not able to work together. وَاعْتَصِمُوا حَبْلَ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. It's what you're commanded in the book of Allah. So we have to deal with the self-hate so we're able to now work together in the communities where we live, in the inner city. Ain't nobody else, ain't no Muslim going to come to save you from another country. They might give you some information, some knowledge, some assistance, but they're not going to come and do the fighting for you. They're not going to come and do all the problem solving for you. You have to do it for yourself. And if you can't do it for yourself, no one's going to come and do it for you. And if you do it for yourself, then that is the better, you get better outcomes. So we need to deal with the self-hate from the Islamic perspective. Then we need to have Islamic solutions for conflicts. We have a lot of conflicts in our community. We have a lot of conflicts and fallouts, and Islam have the best solutions for fallouts and conflicts. Surah Al-Hujurat talks about how to deal with conflicts. Islamic solutions for disputes and conflicts. Islamic solutions for disagreements in the religion. We need to talk about the origin of self-hate. And this order I'm reading is not in the particular order. Doesn't mean it has to come in this particular order. Why black people are running away from their heritage in America, which I mentioned in the beginning, and how to use Islam to empower the black African American communities and to be a model for our people. How African American Muslim could be a model for other black people in America and the African diaspora. Many black nations, many black people outside of America look at African Americans, the foundational black Americans, for inspiration. It's very clear. I lived outside of the US. I lived outside of the US. I lived outside of the US, not for a couple of months, for a few years. I lived outside of the US, and I've seen outside of the US, the black people whether they're African or the African diaspora, they look at Black Americans for inspiration because they see you all in the media in America and in entertainment. And our activists from the past, Muhammad Ali, one of the most famous Muslims of our time, Malcolm X, even Martin Luther King Jr. So African people look at our people for inspirations. Give you an example. One day I was in Egypt, and there was a family from Sierra Leone, and it was mixed from Sudan. Sierra Leone and Sudan, this family, right? And I went to visit them, and this is in Egypt. And in Egypt, they're in love with white skin. Everybody in Egypt is in love with white European culture and looks. So I went to visit some Egyptians who were from Sierra Leone and Sudan, and they had Egyptian identity. I mean, they had Egypt citizenship, citizenship. But their origins, they were from Sierra Leone and South and Sudan, right? I went to their house, and they had me waiting in one of the daughters' room while they prepare the food because men and women don't sit together. So they had me sitting in one of the daughters' room who was Black. And most Egyptians, when I go to their houses, the daughters or the kids, they have in their rooms posters of white Egyptian people who are in entertainment, in movies, and singers. Movies and singers. So I went into this girl room. They had me waiting in there for to prepare the food. I looked at all her posters, unfortunately. I looked at all her posters of entertainers. Guess who was on the wall? All Black American celebrities. Every last one of them. That was her inspiration because she didn't find people who look like her in Egypt in entertainment. She didn't find her people, black skin, dark skinned people in Egypt in entertainment because they're in love with white people and white culture and Eurocentric culture. So she took her inspiration where she's seeing people who look like her, all from America. All the Black famous entertainers in America, she had all their posters in the room. Because she couldn't find people who are famous who look like her in Egypt. So that shows that Black people outside of America, the African diaspora, look at our people for inspirations. So if you want to talk about the global effect of Black American culture and the negative part, now we need to bring a positive part. So many people are looking at our people for inspirations. And Black African diaspora is suffering everywhere. I don't care what is their religion. I don't care if they're Muslim, they're Christian, there are African religions, spiritual religion related to their ancestors. Black people all over the world look at Black Americans for inspirations or for a meal ticket to get out their country. I'm just going to be real. So we have to have solutions. And if we could do it here, that would inspire other people to do it other places. And one of the most influential Black person in America internationally is Muhammad Ali. That's real talk. Muhammad Ali was probably the most inspirational Black American or American internationally. Muhammad Ali, who's a Muslim, rahimahullah. He's Muslim, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy on him. Go anywhere in the world, people know who is Muhammad Ali, the boxer, the African American, who told U.S. government in the draft of Vietnam that he's not going to go overseas to fight the Vietnamese, where his enemies is the white man here in America who oppress his people. Say he'd rather fight you as the white man who's oppressing black Americans, and he's not gonna join the white man's army to fight people who are not his enemy. When the white man is his enemy in America. That's what Muhammad Ali said or meant. He told the white man the truth in his face. You want me to go fight the Vietnamese? Well, you're racist against me here in America. You're my enemy here in America. You oppress my people here in America. What an inspiration he was. May Allah have mercy on him. So black people, especially black American Muslims, we need to learn how to use Islam to empower our African American communities and to be its model. And healing from self-hate. That's the first thing we need to do. Healing from the self-hate. If we don't heal from the self-hate, meaning that you can't have a code of ethics. We need to have a code of ethics. And if we can't heal from the self-hate of white supremacy, what was designed and put there by white supremacy to keep black people at each other, fighting each other and not addressing the real issue, the core issue. So the African American and Muslim need to still start building black thoughts here, meaning black institutions. And what I mean by institutions, they must have institutions or branches or chapters. Must be branches or chapters teaching black social science from an Islamic perspective and an Afrocentric perspective. Mixed, meaning using Islam to deal with black people's experience and trauma and struggles in America. Solutions for it. So that means they had to have a branch from different social sciences. Islamic, or making it Islamic. Economics, morals, meaning spirituality and morals, a code of ethics, institutions that deal also with black people health. Most things in science and medical is really looked at white people, what benefits white people, because they are the one who control this government and are the majority in this society. So the medical field represents dealing with white people, physical and mental issues. And then white people in their institutions, whether it's medical or not, they took it out of their institutions and their social science, God. They took it out of all their social sciences, medical and everything, and religion, and they took out God out of it. So they're not God-fearing and God-conscious people. So we need to have our own social science that is God-fearing, based on Kitab and Sunnah, that's dealing with black Americans' social issues. So I mentioned what? We need to have chapters and branches of teaching in what? Black social science that are Islamic perspective on economics. Why black people don't have finances. How the U.S. government designated us to live in certain areas so we don't have any growth and prevent us from having business loans for business, while their white counterparts, they gave them all these things. They didn't give it to blacks to prevent them from having growth. Meaning growth means having financial growth, meaning that you're able to compete with white supremacy, capitalist government and system. Capitalism is part of white supremacy. Rasulamiya, I believe his name in Arabic. Rasulaliya, I believe. Capitalism. Rasulamiya or Rasulaliya, I can't think of the name correctly in Arabic right now. capitalism was designed by whites, Eurocentric for whites. It wasn't designed for black people. When America enslaved black peoples, put them in slavery, that was part of capitalism. So we need to understand economics for blacks from the Islamic perspective. Free from interest. A lot of black Americans can't take that part. They're capitalists. And they're capitalists, and they wonder why black people are poor, and saying that black people can only have success through capitalism. Black people can only have financial success through capitalism. That's the biggest lie that was ever told to black people. Capitalism is the one that keep black people in the predicament as a whole. I don't care if you're a black guy and you rich. Capitalism was designed to keep white Americans, white Europeans rich over other non-whites. Chapters and branches of teaching with moral system, meaning somewhat a code of ethics, morals, how to behave, how to live, how to treat your woman, how to treat your children, how to treat your wife, how to treat your husband, how to treat your community, how to treat your elders, how to treat your teachers, how to treat your religious people, how to treat the people who don't want to be religious, how to treat the people who don't want to be moral. You need to have a moral system, a code of ethics, how to dispute when you have husband and wife. Very important, because if the family is destructive or the family can't come together, then the society can't come together. If all the black people in their house have issues with morals and characters with women, don't want to get married, fornicating, babies here and there, this is why our communities, our society is destructive. And then you're going to notice in the white society, this is not rampant in the white society. It's there, but it's not rampant. In the black community, it's rampant. Why? Because it keeps you in poverty. It keeps you in poverty. You can't compete. You can't compete with the white society. It keeps you in poverty, and it keeps you weak and defeated. So we need to have a chapter, a branch of teaching for morals, code of ethics, health, education. We need to have what? For education. What type of education? Education that is needed for blacks, not the education the white man give you in public school. White man ain't going to give you the tools in public school for you to compete against him. He's going to give you the education and make your kids more dumber than stupid. He's going to give you the education and make the children the coons, like Obama. If they get in government and the power in government, make sure they keep white people's interests first. I was in one of my kids' school talking or whatever to one of the teachers about them not doing good in English. I'm saying, well, look at the subjects they learn in English. Oh, white people's history, white people literature, European literature. I said, that's why the kids don't care about the stories in English, because you're just promoting white supremacy through English literature. Nothing in the literature shows those kids' culture and who they are. Everything's whitewashed. Because it's teaching white kids to love, teaching black kids to love the white society that they live in. See how great the white man is, and the white man by his literature. So you have your own education that deals with what black people need aid and help in and education in. American public school system, children don't know nothing about finances. But as soon as they go to college, the first thing they do in college is give them credit cards. And these kids have no type of financial literacy, learn none of it in high school. And as soon as they get to college, they give them all these credit cards, and they get all these student loans. And they be in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debts that many of them can't even pay off, even when they get in their 50s and 60s. So we need to have an educational system that teaches black people financial literacy that benefit black folks, not white folks. That's going to empower black folks, not white folks, not Arabs, not Desis. It's going to what? Empower Black African American people, not Arabs, not Arabs, not Desis, not Latinos, Black folks. Latinos got their own economics. Arabs got their own economics. Desis got their own economics, and they all do business with each other. Black people, we don't do business with each other. We give all our money to our enemies and our opponents, our competitors, who freely give their money to their competitors. Only a self-hating Negro does that. So when you have an educational institution that addresses our needs, our social needs, our economical needs, our history, our literature, our morals and character. So, next chapter, branches for teaching history, African history, and African American history, and white supremacy history. That's another one. The history of the African diaspora, Black indigenous globally. So the history that connects us to all these things. African Americans, African diaspora, and the Black indigenous globally. There's some people, they're Black. I've been to Indonesia and I was like, look, all these Black people I look just like them, man. Looking at somebody look just like my mother's father. And somebody told me, Indonesia told me, oh, these are the indigenous people of Indonesia. I said, this guy looks just like my grandfather, man. These are the Black indigenous people. We need to learn about them because some of us, we might not be African, we might be Black indigenous. There's a brother here on Facebook, associate of mine on Facebook, a brother who gives dawah, right? And he told me his mother is indigenous in Canada. One day he showed his mama, because his father is Jamaican. He showed his mother who's Black indigenous from what they consider to be in Canada, the First Nation. He showed his mom, like, oh yeah, his mom is definitely Black indigenous. He tried to give us some jerk chicken. And she's like, that's too spicy. Black indigenous. A lot of us got parents like this. In America and in Canada, a lot of us have Black indigenous people in our family. Or we are Black indigenous ourselves. And there's more to that. Chapters and branches of teaching law, fiqh, religion, meaning spirituality, history of Black religions, history of African religions, and Middle Eastern, and indigenous history and religion. You need to have a chapter just for military thoughts, Islamic military thoughts, Western military thoughts, and African and indigenous military thoughts. It's a big history. How did the Europeans colonize the world? If you don't know how the Europeans colonized the world and enslaved your people and your ancestors, then how are you going to be able to fight and dispute them? How you be able to repel them if you don't know their tactics? Military thought. No Muslim should be ashamed to say military thought. America would not be in the predicament or in the situation it is, meaning as powerful it is, if it didn't have a military. If it didn't have military colleges, and I said colleges, universities, America have military colleges and universities. West Point is one of them. They have a naval academy down south. They have other military academies. And I'm not talking about no military school. I'm talking about universities. Black people need to start understanding what is military. What is the purpose of military? Because you can't have government or understand government without understanding military. Need to understand law. Need to have a chapter understanding law. American law, Islamic law, Christianity law, Because unfortunately, Christians today, they are dumbfounded. And they're depending, the black church is depending on the legal system, which the legal system in America is secular. And a lot of Christians don't even know, black African American Christians don't understand. Yo, in their religion, they have some law. They have laws in their religion. And black people, African American Muslim, if you want to get dawah and engage in these peoples, you have to understand these people's law, because it's understanding their religion. And then we might find, as African American Christians and African American Muslims, that we have a lot more in common than we think we don't. We have more in common than we don't have in common. Especially when it comes to the moral compass. We have more in common. Why our people got away from this moral compass? There's something to do with the liberals, U.S. government, to separate between the black man and the black woman, to break up the black family. We need to understand international laws. And that's very important, international laws, because for understanding economics, or a chapter for economics, we want to practice group economics. But once you start practicing group economics, you want to expand that. You want to expand that in other communities to keep on making money. You want to expand the business. So group economics, once you have group economics there, then you want to start expanding vertically into other communities and other countries. Black economics don't mean that I don't do business with white folks. Black economics don't do that. Don't mean that. It means that, yeah, we buy from each other. But when we start having economics, meaning having business, having corporation, you're going to want to expand that corporation into other cities, other towns, and other countries. So you need to understand something about international law. So you can expand not just your mind, but your business and your goals as black folks. And I wrote for my final notes, we need to understand how to govern governments. So that means that we need to understand Islamic governments, the countries that we live in, government structure. We need to understand international government structures in other countries, because a lot of black people in America, once I start living in other countries and visiting other countries, I start noticing that American government is very harsh compared to other European and Western governments. American government, if you look at European standards or Western standards, even Canadian governments, and Canada's government in Canada, American government comparing to all these other governments is harsh. It's harsh. America have have its population, the largest amount of its population in prison compared to other European Western governments. And that's how American government used that system to keep black people down, by filling the prison system with black folks. No, meaning that you can't compete with them. And even some of the crimes, some of the laws for certain crimes and stuff is very harsh in America compared to other European countries. Like, for example, in New York and in America, if you're 18 years old and you commit a crime, you're considered an adult. Like in Canada and other Western countries, no, you're not. You're still considered a minor. So you need to understand other governments and start learning about them, so you can see how radical American government is. It's very radical, very oppressive. And you will never know that if you don't look at other governments and how other governments are structured. And even for the African American Muslim, you need to start understanding how other governments work, especially the Islamic government, and seeing how other governments fund, how other governments function. So when we take a comparison between the governments, we can see how rotten U.S. government is, especially towards black folks. We start understanding, when you start looking at other Western governments, then you start understanding how racist the U.S. government really is, how brutal and racist they really are. People in UK, you notice the police in UK don't have no guns. Why is that? That's something you need to do research on. Why UK government police don't have guns like the police in America? I remember even as a trip, I went to Canada, even the border, immigration police from right there at the border between Canada and US, on the Canadian side and the American side, you can see the police on the American side got all the guns. You go to Canada, their police on the border, you don't see no guns in the open. Police don't have no gun in the open. It might be there, but they're not carrying no gun in the open. You don't feel threatened by them. And then when you be at the border, right, in Canada, you be at the border and you see the Canadian side and the police side, you look at the Canadian side, man, depending where you at in Canada, depends also. Also, it depends where in Canada you are at entering. But you at the border, you're gonna see the police for immigration. You might not see no white faces. You might see like one white police. You go on the American side, you see all them rednecks, them racist rednecks police. And they're sharing the same border. A couple of feet is the Canadian, and then a couple of feet is the the entering and exiting, right? Entering and exiting. So you have the Canadian police immigration and the American immigration police right there. And you see all the crackers, the redneck crackers with the guns. And then you see the Canadian side, depending where you going at in Canada. You see you don't see no white faces. Everybody's face is brown. Maybe you see one white person face talking about the immigration police. So that shows you the difference between America and other Western countries. So Black Americans need to start understanding other government systems in other countries, and not just Islamic. Understanding governing and looking at other governments. So take some inspirations. And then you start finding out and looking at America is an oppressive government. And the reason why it's like that to keep black people from progressing or be able to compete with them, where black people would have control of the government. That's what white supremacy is really about, keeping black folks at bay forever, controlling the government so we don't seek revenge. We don't seek revenge for them. That's what it's all about. That's why you see police killing blacks and black people incarcerated. Redlining and all these things is to keep black people from fighting against white supremacy in their government. Flooded of drugs keep black people from fighting white folks in the government. Single moms keep people dysfunctional, keeping them from not be able to fight the government. No trade schools of this in the black communities in the neighborhood, and all the black politicians not trying to do it, keeping black folks from having economics, the skills to have their own business or money so they can't compete and fight the government. That's all. It was all designed by the government like this. We need to unravel these things. So I will end this video. And if you like this video, please click like and share.